We are good. I think it will work.
Go for it. Okay. Good morning. First off, just want to reiterate in our June, what we talked about in June in our workplace violence class, that DOU values you as #1 asset. Okay. Without you folks, we can't do what we do. So we're not here to instill fear upon you, fear factor, and make you afraid and look over your shoulder. We just want you to be aware of the situations that are out there to keep you safe, not only at work, but at home and out and about in your everyday life, okay? So that's what we want to do, to bring an awareness level and help you understand what's going on out there. Okay, so we're going to talk about active shooter awareness. Active shooting events can happen any place, anytime, anywhere. Are we prepared? Okay, first scenario, class scenario. We have an active shooter come in that door right there. Okay, what might we do? Any idea?
Duck. Get
Pardon?
under the tables.
Get under the table, get out that door. Okay, good points. Well, we're going to cover all this. And then we're going to introduce that question a little bit later on. We'll see what you all come up with. Good points. Under table, out the door. Okay, our objectives, we're going to talk and describe what an active shooter is, who he is or who they are. We're also going to describe how we're going to respond to law enforcement as they come on scene. We're going to discuss how to manage consequences and after action, post-analysis, lessons learned in that after an incident, okay? So, starting off, what is an active shooter? Department of Homeland Security and FBI, they always love to put in lengthy definitions. This definition of an active shooter is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. Would this be a confined and populated area? Pretty much training scenario, this type of a conference room in that. They're also floating around a term called active killer. Not only is it a shooting situation, but it could be use of explosives, stabbing, right, knives. What happened about 3 weeks ago down in Venice Beach? Those of you that are into the news, pardon?
A riot?
A guy took a car and went down Venice Beach, the boardwalk, and was hitting people with a car, so he was using that as a weapon, basically. So, it's not only a gun, it could be any type of instrument used as a weapon. Okay, some characteristics of active shooters. They're deliberate and planned attacks. They don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to go shoot somebody and create a lot of turmoil and havoc. They're intent on committing that mass murder, that mass panic in the public. They want recognition for what they're doing. Historically, they're male. They usually carry out their task alone, but in a few instances, we've had 2 people out there. So you're not going to see a gang, so to speak. Historically, it's not a big gang and group of people going out and doing this. It's usually one. Majority of the time, it's 1, sometimes 2. Primarily use handguns. That's not the only weapon they use. They use shotguns, they use rifles and such. But typically, historically, they've used handguns. Okay. So, some of the motives of an active shooter: they desire for attention, recognition. They create an incident to solve a problem or revenge. So somebody's done them wrong and they're on a revenge mode. Or the bottom one here, they felt bullied, persecuted, or threatened by others, whether it's co-workers, family members, members of the public and such. Okay, that's the FBI and Department of Homeland Security's has collected that as motives. For statistics, from 2000 to 2010, there was 84 active shooter events. Okay, 49% of those ended before law enforcement intervention, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And the bottom one there, which really is kind of intriguing to me, that 93% of the attackers engaged in some type of behavior that caused people concern. You know, and they go back and they interview after these post-incidents, and they say, hey, did you notice anything wrong with Joe? Well, the high school counselor or the high school coach or somebody goes, yeah, acted a little weird in class, did this, did that, like to play with guns, like to talk about guns and different movies and things like that. So they try to connect the dots to build a picture of what this person was really like. But as this is going on, do we know? You know, do we know that Joe is going to end up doing what Joe did 20 years down the road from the way he was acting in school or in class or in public venue? No. So I don't like the bottom one, because how do you know what that person's going to be 20 plus years from now, just because they might have played cowboys and Indians as a kid out in the park or something? I'm going to throw this at that thing. I guess I can't go any further than here. Okay, active shooter situations, they're becoming more frequent. We're hearing about them in the news. There was one a couple weeks ago where a person walked into a town hall meeting with a rifle, was shooting on the way in, ran out of ammunition, went back to the vehicle, got some handguns, went back in to shoot, and the folks in that room got together and they jumped him and disarmed him. So, are they happening more frequently? Yes. Are they unpredictable? Absolutely, happen very quickly. They usually last 10 to 15 minutes, and they stop with either the suspect committing suicide or there's law enforcement intervention. So, what can we do to prepare ourselves and prevent this from happening in our work environment, wherever we're at? Whether we're at this facility, we're out in the field, at a work site, we're at a sump and well, water treatment plant, and such. So, active shooter events will happen anywhere. They can happen where you shop, where you entertain, where you recreate. It could be a sports venue, a stadium, concert hall, convention center, where you exercise free speech out in front of a strip mall at a grocery store, where you learn, libraries, college, any type of campus where there's learning. Even here, we're learning right now, we're in a training session, and where you work. There's no one place that happens more than the other, and there's no one geographical area of the country that it happens more than the other. It can happen at any time, anywhere, any place. Not to instill that fear, just want you to be aware. Give you some examples of active shooter events here that kind of portray those venues that we were just talking about. This one here, Sacramento City Library. First gentleman walked in, shooting. Employees ran out, notified city police. They came in. The suspect went up to the upper floor, up on the roof. Law enforcement tried to talk him down like normal, and ended up shooting the suspect up on the roof. This happened in '93, downtown. Remember we talked about the statistics show one person? In this instance, this was Columbine. In '99, 2 folks. Can it happen? Yes. Has it happened since? I don't think so. I think this is the only where it was a team of people. Not to say that it can't happen. This one here was very close to you folks, but it's right down at 24th Street Courtyard. I don't know if any of you were working down there or remember the incident, but check the dates on here. September 8 through 10, 2001. He wanted to be noticed. He had revenge. He was terminated or suspended from Burn Security. Went after co-workers, supervisors. Went as so far as to go into the courtyard, doing what he did there, went down to the marina, committed another act down there, and then went out in the East Sacramento Rancho Cordova area, shot a supervisor out there, and ended up crashing his vehicle in Rancho Cordova, and his law enforcement moved in and took his own life. Wanted to be noticed, wanted to be on the front page of the news, wanted to be on television. Again, the dates, what happened on September 11, 2001. Took him right off the front pages. And he actually left the video stating that that's what he wanted to have happen. Here, a mall, we talked about where he shot. Here's a mall in Utah in 07. Person walked in with a shotgun and just started shooting. Two-story mall, kind of like Roseville. Went down to the lower floors and just started walking around and shooting. Again, this person was stopped by police. Remember, suicide and law enforcement intervention. This was at a rally for Congresswoman Gabby Gifford in Tucson, Arizona in 11. And somebody obviously didn't like what was going on in the crowd and ended up shooting 6. So here's free speech. We talked about an area where there's maybe free speech going on. It could be anywhere. Cesar Chavez Park downtown, wherever the venue is where folks gather to listen to somebody speaking. This one here is where we entertain. This is Aurora, Colorado. Most of the shootings happened during the day, about 59%. This one here happened in the evening. This person here went in, bought a ticket, sat in the front row, went outside, vehicle was sitting right outside the parking lot, went out the fire exit, blocked the exit, went out, got all his equipment, put on all his ballistic material, which is kind of like a plastic type of protective material, put on his tactical clothes, dark clothing and everything else, and then came back in through tear gas and such, and we know the rest. He was captured as he went back outside to his car when law enforcement arrived. So again, law enforcement's there in about 10 to 15 minutes. That's how long these events last. And they were able to capture him there. Christopher Dorner, we talked about revenge and some of their motives. This employee was terminated from LAPD in 08. And he had done a manifesto on Facebook to get back to the folks that did him wrong, that he felt did him wrong. As you recall, back in June, we talked about motives for workplace violence. 3%, I stated, were folks, ex-employees, former employees, whether they're terminated or retired, that may come back and create a violent act at your workplace. Remember, I was talking about the familiarity of how you operate, how to get in and out of the place, and you knowing them and allowing them to come on in without really questioning what they're doing. And this type of thing could happen. So he was able to accumulate a lot of weapons and ammunition, and then 5 years later decided to go out on his mission to get those who wronged him. And he ended up being shot by law enforcement intervention. Last one here just happened in June. It was actually a domestic violence situation. Had nothing to do with a learning institution to begin with. Had a beef with dad and brother, went in, shot them, set fire to the house, and then walked outside. Here's a couple cars going down the road, carjacked a car, drove it right into the college, and went up into the library where there's going to be a lot of people at college in the library, and started shooting. And he ended up being shot. So again, what these are examples of, these events can happen anywhere, any place, and any time, where we shop, entertain, recreate, where we work, where we learn. So, what can we do? How do we respond to an active shooter? Anybody? Good answer. Best options to run. We'd like you to just remember from this session, run, hide, fight. Okay, big letters, green, yellow, red. Okay, best option is to run. If you can't run, the next option is to hide, and the last, very last, absolute option is to fight. It's your last resort. Okay, and I'll explain those here. Run. Recognizing what's going on. Confusion, loud screaming, banging noises. chaos, people running around, getting into walls, bouncing off walls, whatever the case is, causing a lot of disruption in your workplace. We want to create that time, distance, and shielding, and this is a term that I brought forth from the fire department where I used to work, and we dealt with hazardous material situations where we wanted to create time, that time between us and whatever the threat was, the distance, getting that distance out between us and the threat, upwind, uphill, and shielding, whether it's behind a vehicle, building, and such. So I want to use this term in the same as you're running. You want to create distance and time between you and that threat, whatever that threat is. You want to get away from it, go in the opposite direction of that threat. You want to get to shielding, shield yourself, whether it's in a building behind a door, whether it's in a car, whether it's behind another building outside, tractor, whatever the case is. If you're in a work location, trucks, tractors, heavy equipment, and such. Shield yourself away from that threat because bullets are going to be flying. Okay? And if you can evacuate, do so safely. If you can't run, then the next step's going to be hide. We'll talk about that in a moment. And as you're leaving, if you can leave safely, leave your belongings behind. Don't grab your lunchbox. Don't grab your laptop or your purse or whatever, overnight bag, whatever the case is. Nothing in your hands, okay? And I'll explain that in a bit. Also help others escape. If you have coworkers, just don't go blowing out the door and everybody's like, well, where did she go? Where did he go? Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, there's somebody shooting down there, you know? So help others, let other people know. You're all our coworkers, you're all our asset here at DOU. We take care of each other. Even if you have a tip with them the day before, grab them anyway. That's not a cool thing to do to them. So grab them. If you have people that are injured, maybe somebody's on injured duty because they have a leg cast on and their crutches or whatever the case is, help those people get to a safe spot. Do the best you can, protecting yourself also. And if you can't help them escape, then we're gonna hide them, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And as you're going out, warn people. So I'm walking in the building, you're all running out. Hopefully you're not gonna wave at me and say, hey, have a nice day, we're out of here, right? You're gonna go, hey, there's something going on in there, why don't you come with us? We're gonna go shield ourselves. We're gonna get some distance. Okay? Don't attempt to remove the wounded people, even though it may be your cubicle mate, coworker, supervisor, whatever the case is. Don't remove them, okay? That's taking time, and it keeps you there as a target. So they're going to be injured, law enforcement's going to come in, they're going to do their intervention, and then EMS and fire are going to come in after that and take care of the wounded people. They'll be taken care of. Keep your hands open and visible. That's why I said don't bring anything with you. Don't carry anything with you. Why? Why do police want to see our hands?
So that make sure we don't have anything in them.
Okay? You're not a threat?
Right.
Not a threat? Okay. So if I'm the law enforcement person coming in here and the threat is there behind you and you're all running towards me to get out of here because it's open, we have a door here now. Pretty much I want to see your hands, so you're not a threat to me. So I can do my job and go in after the bad guy and not have to interview each one. Are you a threat? Are you a threat? What do you got in your lunchbox? I'll take your banana and your apple and stuff and all that. No. I'm being facetious there, but you're not a threat. Your hands are up. Okay, it's not a threat to me. Move on. I'm going this way. And I don't have to worry about you doubling back behind me because I've already seen, unless you're carrying something hidden and taking me out. Okay? Because I have a focus, and I'll explain that here in a bit. And when you're safe, when you're running, when you're safe, and you're in a safe spot, shielded, got distance away from the threat, then get a hold of 911 and tell them what you see, your city employee, what you're hearing, what's happening, and where you are. So they'll know where you are. Okay? So if we can't run, our second best option is to what? Hide. A little tough in this room, but we might be able to do it. Okay, we want to be out of the view of the active shooter. Meaning if we have windows, let's pull the drapes down so they can't look in the windows if they're outside shooting. Get some kind of protection. Don't restrict your options for movement. In other words, don't go into a broom closet, into a small closet and sit there. There's only one way in and one way out. You can't protect yourself. So, and again, always when it's safe to do so, give some updates. If we're in a room like this, lock the doors the best we can. If we can't lock the doors, put large objects in front of the doors. Makes it a hindrance for that person to get in that room. Slows them down. Buys that time for you if we have another exit. So if the person's trying to get in this door and we know we have an exit out to the fields, you know, out and about, away from here, we can block this door. Now they're trying to get in the door and it's taking them some time and we're all bailing out the exit, nice and quiet like little mice, just taking off and going and spreading out. I know Ken's going to talk about the emergency action plan about safe zones and evacuation points where we go and collect from this building. It's all bets are off when it's an active shooter now. You just take off, go. Okay? Make sure your windows are covered, lights are off, we silence the cell phones. If need be, you can put your cell phone in and call 911 and let it sit there and let them listen to what's going on in the background. That helps them put the pieces of that puzzle together. Remain quiet, don't huddle. Let's don't huddle in a corner. So if the shooter comes in the door, we're all right there. Spread out. Spread out in the room, hide. Try to grab an object, whatever the case is. Pencils, whatever, coffee cups, you know, a chair. And we'll be able to prepare ourselves if that person comes in the door. Our next mission is to what? Fight. So we can use those objects to throw at the person and attack them from different angles. But if we're all in one area, a little hard to do that. But if we're spread out, somebody might be able to get them. You can watch some videos on DHS.gov. If you go to active shooter, DHS.gov, there's a few videos that talk about that and show you. They do live scenario, and you can see how the folks come at different angles and attack. So, absolute last resort is your fight. Act aggressively. Use improvised weapons, whatever the case is. I know we did a Survey Monkey and people are saying, I'm not going to chase somebody down with a stapler. Now, that was an example of what's in your workplace you could use as a weapon, right? You're going to throw a stapler, scissors, you know, I don't think a mouse will hurt them, but I mean, something to deter, to disrupt their mindset and buy you time to get that distance to get away from them. Okay? Shout, scream, yell, and then commit to your actions. Really make a commitment. You're all in, you're going to go for it. And maybe half of you are in and the other half are getting an exit, ready to all you guys to get out the exit. Whatever the case is, whatever you come up with as a group, commit to your actions. 9/11, the folks that crashed the plane in Pennsylvania, they knew it was going to DC. They did not want that plane to go there. They committed to their actions. They knew the consequence. They knew what was going to happen, and they committed. And then they stomped on their phone. Are you calling 911? Let them know what's happening there. We're okay. And I'm in the room. Good. That was good. I'll pay you $1 later for that. Thank you. Okay. So commit to your actions. Okay? And again, when you're in a safe location, call out. Call 911. That's what we mean by calling out. Call 911. It's probably 911 calling you back. And let them know where the shooter is. Your best spot of where the shooter. Hey, I'm down here at the end of this building because you know this area better than I do. I'm down here at the end of this building and the shooter just went south of me, past me. Okay, number of shooters, if you know. If you hear people talking, not necessarily, gee, I don't know the sounds of different guns going off, so I don't know if it's one or two shooters, but if you hear people talking in the hallway, shooters talking amongst themselves, whatever the case is, I think there's only one, there may be two. Description, if you can, if you see them through a window or whatever. Yeah, it's okay, dark clothing, a mask, ballistic gear, whatever. Types of weapons, you may not know that, but I see the person has a weapon in each hand. That pretty much lets law enforcement know that maybe they're using handguns. Or I see one weapon running around and it's really shooting fast. Okay, that kind of gives them, paints that picture that maybe it's a rifle, an automatic weapon, semi-automatic weapon. And the number of potential victims. That doesn't mean go out and touch everybody and check them out. But if you see 3 or 4 people laying on the ground, I don't know how many victims we have, but I can see right now, I can see 3 people laying on the ground. I don't know if they're hiding, if they're pretending to be injured and dead as a person passes through, or what. I just see 3 people laying on the ground. And your location. I'm back here in the conference room, the training room at Solid Waste. Let them know. That way they know, law enforcement knows that we have people there that need rescuing. So then they radio that information back, or dispatch gives it to the people out in the field, and we know we have victims there. So going back a little bit, when you lock that door, if you're hiding and we're hiding in this room, don't open that door. Nobody. If law enforcement comes and knocks on the door and says, hey, we're law enforcement, you know, we're the cops, you can come out. You know what? Put an ID under the door. Business card. Let me see. Let me see that you're who you are. Okay, don't open that door. Big thing is let's say we had the shooter heading south, this building or that way. They come and they rattle the door and they take off. So we open the door, we hear them running that way. We open the door to see where they went. They stop because something stopped them, barricaded them or locked door or whatever. Now they're coming back. Guess what? They just saw you peek out, so they know you're here. And if they're still committing that in their brain to go out and commit mass murder and injury to people, you just let them know that you're in here. So leave the door closed, just use your senses and go, okay, they went that way, and call 911. 911's not going to come after you and yell and scream at you for giving them updates. They want that because you're giving them real live information and intelligence that they aren't picking up. They're focused. Law enforcement out here is focused to stopping that threat. And we'll get to that right here in a second. If we're held hostage, don't argue. Don't panic. Try to remain calm the best we can. And hopefully we're thinking about how can we escape. If that shooter, that person who's holding this hostage is distracted, then I get out that exit. And once I get out that exit, how easily can I get out? But then once I get out, can I get to a safe location? Can I get that distance and shielding from that threat? Okay, don't pay attention to that. But I'm going to ask the question again. We have an active shooter come in the room through the door. Are we prepared? What may we do?
Run, hide.
Okay, run or hide, right? Depends on what the situation is. They come in the door, we can force them back in there, gives us a chance to escape or hide? Absolutely. So you feel you're a little better prepared now than you were in slide number like 2, 3? Yeah, absolutely. Whether you think about it now, you'll be thinking about it later, going, oh, okay, run, hide, fight. You're going to think the same way when you go to Roosevelt Mall or the Galleria or wherever all those other venues you go to, thinking about it. Thinking about, where's the other exit? You go to the restaurant. Let's see, tomorrow, Friday night. You go to the restaurant, you're going to be sitting there thinking, okay, if a fire happened here in the kitchen, where's my other way out except for the front door? Can I get out of here? Look for the exit signs. By law, they have to be posted. Okay, moving right along, what action do we take when law enforcement arrives? Okay, their priority, their number one priority is to eliminate that threat. They're not focused on you all, not at the moment, but by them eliminating the threat, keeps you safe. By them eliminating the threat keeps them safe, the public safe. Okay, so they stop the threat, everybody's safe. So they're focused on going to where somebody called 911 and said they heard the shots. They're trying to locate that, keep that person from moving around, keep them in an isolated area, and take care of that threat. That is their main focus. Okay? They're going to come in teams. They may be in teams, they may be in teams or they may be in individuals. You may see people dressed in three-piece suits from the FBI or Department of Justice. You may see people dressed in plain clothes like you're all wearing